Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com Deep Dive presented by Dottie's Family Market in Dover, PA. Joining us on the show this week is car owner Kevin Rudeen. Before we get to Kevin, Dottie's Family Market is your one-stop shop on the way to the races. They have fresh-made subs and sandwiches with all the fixins, perfect for a night at the racetrack. Dottie's has everything you need in one location, including a full-service deli, a wide selection of groceries, and gas. If you're looking to dine in, check out the Hive Coffee House and Cafe for a great sandwich. There is also a seasonal greenhouse on site, and coming soon is Dottie's Crab House, where you can dine in for fresh seafood and all-you-can-eat Maryland crabs. Head over to the corner of Canal and Bull Road in Dover, PA. Dottie's Family Market has you covered. Hey, Kevin, welcome to the Deep Dive. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. What's the weather like up there?
It's about 25 degrees and cloudy.
And you're in where are you located in Washington?
Just east of Spokane, Washington, just on the Idaho-Washington border there. So Liberty Lake, Washington.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into all things about your career and whatnot. And I want to kick things off because you grew up near Spokane and Eastern Washington. And how did you find a passion for racing? When did that first start and how did that develop?
Well, my dad was a racer at heart, and we did go-karts and motorcycles. And in the early 80s or late 70s, early 80s, snowmobile racing on the ice ovals. And so I was just always racing something.
Now, I read some stuff. You race snowmobiles, go-karts, and motorcycles.
Yes.
What's it like racing a snowmobile?
Well, that was back. There's not a lot of it anymore, but we ran on oval tracks, ice ovals. I think they still have it like at Eagle River, Wisconsin and stuff. There's a few races, so it was fun.
I watch it on TV. I think it's probably more dangerous than a sprint car or more, what you call extreme sports.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a good time. It still is. I like watching it now.
Now you got out of that to go to college, I guess.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And you went to college. Where'd you go to college, and what did you go for?
I went to a few colleges, but I graduated from Seattle Pacific University with a marketing degree. And at the time, I was married then and started having a family and started my business.
So when did you get into sprint car racing, or how did you kind of develop that love for sprint car racing? Because you've been in it ever since.
Yeah, I was with a buddy of mine. We were down in Phoenix, and we went to Manzanita, and I watched one. It was an outlaw race, and I was hooked. I'm like, I got to do this. I got to try and do this.
Did you get a chance to race one?
Yeah. I ran quite a few seasons out of Skagit. I never competed. I never had time for a full season, so I'd run every other weekend, et cetera, et cetera. But I got to run with the Outlaws and had some fun times.
Now, I guess you broke your arm?
Yeah, I broke a few bones, but probably the worst one was broke my arm, and a tail tank from another car came into the cockpit with me and broke the bone here but below my eye and 3 ribs. And yeah, that was a wreck.
So at that point, is that when you kind of said, well, it's better to own them than it is to drive them at this point?
No, early on, I had a guy, young guy named Jimmy Carter out of Canada. And I always had a guy right after I started driving on a weekly basis to represent the team and to be there. And then Jimmy could prep the car and everything. So I kind of had an arrive and drive program for myself.
You've had a lot of drivers over the years.
Yes.
And when did you own your first car that somebody else drove?
I'm not sure. Early 90s, 93, somewhere in there, maybe.
Okay. And was Jimmy Carter your first driver?
Yeah, Jimmy was great. He and I worked together for several years.
Now you had another guy after him, and I can't think of the name. Started with an M.
Who did I have for M?
May,
I think.
May, May was it? I can't remember his name. And I was putting your driver list together.
Oh, Taylor Molsom.
That's it. That's it.
Taylor's my nephew. Yeah.
Yep. And he drove for a while.
Yep.
And then who were some of the other guys you had in the 90s or early on before you got to Shane Stewart?
Travis Roots was there, Travis was a hell of a driver. I just went through a lot of guys, just even if it was week, just coming in for the week and stuff, Bud Kading was in the car. We went through a lot of great guys. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I think Tim Kading drove it.
Tim drove once, yeah. Statler, Jason drove.
When did Jack Hodenshield get in it?
The jacket? Oh, you stumped me on this one.
That
No.
I was searching. It's hard to find information on you.
Huh.
But so I want to get to Shane Stewart. He ran NST for you in 2006. How long was Stewart in that car? And was that kind of the first national guy that you had who, you take this thing on the road? And what made you make that leap from just running on the West Coast to traveling a lot more?
Well, with Jimmy and Shane Anderson was the crew chief through all those guys. Big Shane. They'd go out on the road in the summer and they'd run out that Gum Out series.
Yep.
For a while. So we'd been out on and off the road, and then just decided to commit to a whole year and got together with Shane. And I believe Shane and I ran 2 complete years with the Outlaws. And but it was just something where I was always working to head that way, to be out on the road the whole time with a major series.
And you've kind of been out on the road ever since. When you first started this team, was that kind of the plan all along, or did it just grow into that?
I think a combination of both, really. I mean, I wanted to just keep getting better at our what we did, and so the kind of the end goal of that is to be on the road traveling with a series. Although I don't actually love points racing, so there was a lot of years where we would just pick and choose where we would go. But it's been good since we've done this, and the All-Stars were awesome when we had those seasons with the All-Stars. Really good schedule, good group of guys. So that was fun.
For you as an owner watching it, compare that to driving it. Is that difficult for you? Because racing's in your blood. I mean, your dad, Kent, did it, and then you did it, and obviously you got injured. But what was that? I mean, compare the two.
Driving's more fun. Being an owner is more expensive.
We're going to get to that.
Completely different things. My mind still thinks I could get in there and drive, but these guys today are so fast, so good. Amazing, the skill set that most of the guys out there have. It's crazy. So I miss the racing. I miss doing it. I play around here and there with little things, but it's just the level that these guys are driving at's incredible right now.
So you ended up, I mean, you had Sam Haferteep in the car, I think 2011. Again, ran Outlaws, ran NST. Before I go past the NST thing, that was a split. Again,
Right.
World of Outlaws, NST, you lived through that. And now we have World of Outlaws High Limit.
Mm-hmm.
Compare that 2006 to this.
I don't think there's really any comparison. NST was a great idea at the time, and Freddie Brownfield, I was involved with Freddie on that. One of the best race guys on the planet. but the funding wasn't the same. I think that what we've got going now with the high limits, it's totally different world, and I'm really proud of what the high limits have done, and not anti the world of outlaws at all. It's just kind of raised the whole bar for the sport as a whole.
And you've gotten involved with supporting some series or helping support some series or sponsorship with series, the All Stars and even High Limit a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What's that been like? Because that's just another. I mean, you're a busy guy.
Mm-hmm.
Owning. I mean, you own a management company and obviously all the properties up in Washington, and then you own a car. And because you're not busy enough, you're going to get involved with some other stuff as well. Man, how do you juggle all that? Is it just your love for the sport and you find that time, or how does that all work?
Um, I have such a good group of people around me. I always say this, and it's the truth, is I wouldn't be able to do any of what I do without such a good team around me. So I surround myself with people a hell of a lot smarter than me, and there's just everybody's handling it, and I do have a big passion for 410 sprint car racing. So when we can help, when we can sponsor, I love to do that. And yeah, it's just the people around me keep me headed the right direction on a daily basis.
So you end up with Corey Eliason in the car,
Mhm.
West Coast guy.
Yep.
How did that come about? And take me through those years. I mean, had a lot of success early, and then it kind of dropped off a little bit, struggled a little bit. Take me through those years with Corey. What made you put him in the car, and kind of what led to that parting of the ways?
Well, I mean, Corey's great human, great driver, West Coast guy, like you said. I love that about him. Hard charger. And we did have some success early on. And then it's always just personalities on the team. It's trying to get all those guys to gel. And then it's a fluid situation because personalities change and people come and go. So it wasn't one thing. It just seemed like the natural time for us him to go on to the next thing and us to try something new. And we did that. But I talked to Corey all the time. Corey does a lot of work for us and on our car and stuff. I love him to death. It's once you've been part of the team, you never really leave, I guess. I love each of these guys so much and appreciate what they did for us.
So you hire Zeb, and
Yes.
you come out and you had, I would argue, your most successful year as an owner. Had 11
Yep.
wins, win the All-Star Drivers title, win an outlaw race at Port Royal, which was huge. Uh, what was that season like for you, just to see Zeb kind of get over that hump as well from when he was with his own team? And then you have a year where double-digit wins on the road is not easy. Doesn't matter
Correct.
what series you're with. Take me through that season. What was that season like for you?
Awesome season. Good people, hard work. Loved it. Just proud of everybody, what they put into it. Really storybook ending there at Eldora at the end of the season with us and Sunshine going for the championship. Yeah, probably one of the best things that's ever happened in our ownership time in my career. That was an amazing night.
And then you came back a couple weeks later, win an outlaw show.
Yeah, right back to back. Yeah, we were rolling there for a minute. That's
At sprint car racing's a tough game though.
correct.
And the next year you go with high limit, and it was the exact opposite.
Struggled.
Yeah, exact opposite. How difficult was that? Because I always say it's sometimes I believe it's easier to climb the mountain than it is to stay there.
For sure.
So how difficult was 2024? And then you parted ways with Zeb and hired Justin Peck.
Hmm.
What was that sequence like? And how difficult was that for you as an owner?
Well, all racing, and especially 410 sprint car racing, will humble you in a hurry. And that's what 2024 did to us is we just couldn't get anything right. And again, there's some personalities in there, and Zeb Wise is as good a human being as you can find. I love Zeb to death. Same thing. Once you've been around me, you're like my brother, like my son, whatever. But we couldn't get anything going right, and um, wasn't wasn't really thinking I was going to make a change or anything. But after we sat down and talked, I think it was what needed to happen, and we go from there.
Now you have Justin Peck. Pretty good start to 2025. Got to say,
Yeah,
undefeated 3-0.
I can't complain. I can't. This week will be a little tougher competition, but man, I was super proud of those guys, and as hard as they work, and every team works hard, so it's not just us. But man, I was really happy, and they deserved to have a good start, and that was beyond what we would have guessed.
But you came out of the gate pretty strong at World Finals. You had a pair of podiums with the Outlaws, then finished 11th. Thought you had more speed that night than the finish indicated. But still, come out that weekend and have a pair of podiums against the Outlaws at World Finals is pretty good. Were you surprised that it went that well this soon, whether it's last year and then rolling into Volusia this year?
Yeah, you never know exactly what you're going to get. I thought this Tyler and him and Brandon, I thought everybody work well together. I was really proud of what they did at Charlotte last year. But Justin just felt comfortable in the car prepared by Tyler right out of the gate, and he's been comfortable ever since. And again, this sport can humble you. You don't know what tomorrow brings, but I think that's really a good pairing. I think those two guys work well together.
What did you like about Justin Peck when you hired him?
Grit, moxie, drive. It's just kind of a no bullshit guy that just he's a racer's racer. So
he definitely drives hard.
Yeah.
And I think he believes he has something to prove. Do you because you're a pretty reserved guy, and again, you're tied up with a lot of stuff. You got a lot of moving parts going on with business and whatnot. But do you take time and feel like your team needs to prove something after struggling last year and then making that change? Because I know Justin, he indicated, and Victor Lane, he indicated on our podcast today that he feels he has something to prove to people in the sprint car world. Do you ever kind of think about that with your team as well, especially after a year like last year?
I always want our guys to do well, and we're out there to be successful. I think anybody that knows the sport, I don't worry about most people's opinions really, but the people I would care what they think, that they know that we're solid and we're trying, and it's a tough game. So I didn't really come out this year with a chip on our shoulder or anything, but they've done good work the first part of the year. So let's see how it goes here. But I'm happy. Justin's got a little chip on his shoulder or whatever. That's his to carry. As a team, we're going to do what we do every week. We're going to show up, race hard and head to the next race.
So 10 years ago, roughly 10 years, your life changed. You had a tragedy within your family. Your son, Rayce, lost battle with addiction. You could have walked away from the sport and nobody would have thought anything. Nobody would have, said, "Oh my word, that such a tough time." But yet you not only kept going in racing, you started the Rayce Rudeen Foundation. What made you stay in racing? A lot of people, when they go through a tragedy, they contract. You went the exact opposite way. How difficult was that time for you, and what made you stay involved in racing and really even up the ante more?
Um, that's a big question there.
Sorry.
I no, it's all good. I didn't want what hurt our family so bad to stop me from what I love doing. I thought racing was a platform where we could get the word out. And I wanted people just to know that, yeah, it's natural to shrink or curl up in a ball, but I didn't want what took my son away to take me away from what I love to do. And so we just, if we can reach a few people about addiction, talk openly about addiction, um, it was a natural choice. I didn't think too hard about it. I remember even when we were getting ready for the memorial service, the pastor that ran the memorial service, he asked, do you want us to shy away from what killed Rayce? And I said, no, my son died of an overdose. And that's just who I am. That's the fact. So let's take that fact and build from there and hopefully save some other families the same thing.
Well, and you've done a lot with this foundation and definitely gotten the word out, especially in the racing community. Um, in building this thing, are you pleased with how far it's come, and where do you want to take this thing, you know, down the road and moving forward?
Well, I got it kind of rolling, and right not long after I started, my younger sister, Marcia Molson, stepped in, and she gets the credit for taking it where she's taking it, and got amazing people involved and working closely with the DEA, and um, so it's really it's myself surrounding myself with good people, and it's just taken off on its own life there. So I'm pleased with where it's going. I don't. I think we got a long ways to go still. Um, so we'll just run with it and do as good a work as we can do.
You know, where does your work ethic come from? Because you're a guy. I mean, you're on the move. You're busy. Is it just did that start when you were a kid? You never wanted to, idle hands, so to speak. Was it just a case of stay busy, keep moving forward, keep building whatever it is you got your fingers in?
Yeah, I kind of have. I mean, I think my parents instilled a good work ethic in me. Um, but I feel like if you're not going forward, you're going backwards, kind of deal. So we just try and keep digging every day, and great support group around me. So great wife. I just This is what we do. We just need to get up and go forward tomorrow.
And I always said about Tony Stewart, he has great people around him. Successful people put good people around him. And I've heard you say this a few times about the people around you.
Mhm.
Was there a point when you realized, both in business, whether it's racing, the foundation, where, hey, you know, it's great to have an idea, but the execution, it's more important to have good people around me to kind of, who have the same vision, who can carry that vision on. Where did that come from? Where did you kind of get that idea? Or is that something you learned in school, or where did that kind of mantra come from?
Two answers to that. First, mentioning Tony there, one of my heroes. There's as great a person as I know as Tony Stewart. So I tell him he's my hero. He's younger than me, but he's my hero, and I learned from him. But I think early on I knew that I couldn't do all I'm not a good detail guy. I'm not a good accounting guy. I'm not good with that. So I just brought people in to help me, and I fly around at 40,000 feet, and I need those people to fill in the details and stuff. And so I think that was early on. And my CFO is my cousin that's been with me for 30 some years. And without him, I would I wouldn't be where I was. I've just got great people helping me, and he's a numbers guy, and he's anal, and he keeps track of all that. He tells me no a lot, so that's
I, that's critical, though. I
yeah.
wish some people would tell me no sometime in my business, but since I'm the only guy in it, I kind of have a choice. But
Yeah.
uh, how important is it to not only be told no, but be okay with being told no? Because a lot of businesses have failed because guys didn't want to be told no and just went and did something anyway.
It's hard to learn to accept that you wake up and have a brilliant idea, and everybody around you saying, "No, that's not the most brilliant idea you've had." But I think after a few times of not listening to the people around you and having complete failures, then all of a sudden you say, "Well, maybe I should listen to those people." So I probably learned the hard way on that one.
But again, because you're not busy enough, you purchase Skagit. Or
Yeah, why
you're
not? Yeah,
that had to be pretty special because it's in your neck of the woods. It's where you raced. Did you
yeah.
ever imagine owning Skagit?
No, no. Actually, I said for a lot of time I didn't. I didn't want to. Steve would call me and say, "You should buy this track." I'm like, "No, I'm not a track owner. No." Um, but the time hit just right, and again, that's a deal where John Hager, a guy that we work really close with, I said, "John, can you go over and figure out this Skagit deal and see what we need to do there?" And he went. And that's the last time I've seen him in this office. He's been at Skagit every day since, I think. So they're doing great things over there. I'm proud of what we're getting done over there. We got a long ways to go, but it's been a good start.
When you brought in Blake Anderson,
Yeah,
and I think he's a racing guy. He's not just I think people just kind of view him as an announcer, but it goes much deeper than that for what he does with you guys.
yeah. He's. I hate to give him any compliments. He's going to get a big head,
Yeah,
But
we don't. Well, we'll temper that.
yeah, I was going to have some smart ass remark for Blake, but I think he and John work well there. He looks at it again different from John, and they're building something there that I'm proud of, and they're a good team. Yeah, we're lucky to
And
have Blake.
yeah, I mean, how did you get him to move from Iowa, where he's like got the wrestling, the Iowa football, and he has all these things? How'd you get him to move to the West Coast?
I'm going to have to ask John what we gave him to make that move. I don't know. I mean, he watches everything on his phone all day about Iowa still, so I don't think he knows he's moved yet. He's just
You gotta love Blake.
yeah, great guy.
Yeah,
I do
it's
love him.
sensational guy. Uh, the Dirt Cup,
Hmm?
the Skagit Nationals.
Hmm?
How important is it, or was this something when you got in there to continue making big races, making those races bigger, and having premier events on the West Coast? How much was that a focal point when you took this thing over?
It was important for two reasons. To keep racing viable, you need to have those big paying races. You need to get the money out to the teams, and the West Coast is a long ways from anywhere. So you got to give those guys a reason to come. And I wanted to have a couple marquee events, and we're getting there. I think they'll both be good again this year. I think the purses will change again this year, and we'll keep digging.
When you look at obviously having high limit involved, I believe the Skagit Nationals portion of it. Um, that how important is it to for the West Coast to have these series out there? I talk, there's been some years when the Outlaws didn't come out or rained out or whatever. How important is having a good relationship with High Limit, not just because you have a car on the series, but also the Outlaws, to where it really helps West Coast racing? And you made the plunge by adding the 410s again. 410s are prominent at Skagit as well. Is it all about saving that West Coast 410 sprint car market?
That's a big piece of it. We need premier series to come out here and run if we're going to have a strong West Coast presence of 410s. I, like I say, I'm a huge believer in 410 racing. I love 360s, 305, sportsman, whatever. But the 410 sprint car racing, I believe, is some of the best racing on the planet. And we need those big races out here, and we need them to pay well. And they come out here, and you look at Trey Starks last year. He schools them. You know, I mean, a local guy. We just need to have those races come here and put our guys in front of them, and we're strong. We have a good West Coast crew here, so we need to keep that on the screen. And yeah, it's important to me.
How difficult is it with scheduling? Because I know there could be a conflict with NARC this year, and is that always a moving target? And do you get involved with any of that? What's your involvement as far as, I mean, are you kind of on the fringe? Just they tell you something, you say, well, why don't we do this? Or how does that work? And how difficult is it with scheduling nowadays?
Yeah, 99% of the scheduling is John Hager and Blake. Those guys take care of that. I guess there is a conflict. I got a little involved with the conflict with NARC. We don't want to take away from any program, but we don't want those programs competing with our big programs. We'll work through that. Maybe not this year. Maybe there's two races run the same weekend this year, but we're gonna work through it. And like those guys that, you know, the people that are passionate about racing, they're willing to move their events a little here or there so we can have more premier events on the West Coast.
So I want to hit you with some stuff in sprint car racing.
Okay.
How do you, if you're looking down at the sport, are you pleased with where the sport is right now? And how could it get better?
I think we're in a pretty good place right now. I like where we're headed. It couldn't get better by getting more money to the teams. We need teams to know that they can go out there and run a full season and come closer to breaking even, make it less expensive. But we're far from perfect, but I'm pretty optimistic of where the sport's heading.
So I ask a lot of people this, whether it be an owner or promoter, if you're the grand poobah of sprint car racing, you're in charge for one day, what would Kevin Rudeen change in this sport day one? The difficult one.
Yeah, I don't know that you're going to get an answer out of me unless I've thought about it a lot longer. I don't really have a good answer than that other than just getting us more money,
Mm-hmm.
just racing for more money. You know, I'd have that takes a lot of thought. I'm not going to give you a good clean answer on that right now.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, you know, Australia, and I'm sure you're in tune with what goes on in Australia. They have a governing body that oversees all of sprint car racing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I always thought was a governing body here for rules, you know, standardized, you know, just to kind of have some standards. You know, we had drug testing for a year, and then all of a sudden it went away because of COVID. We had, you know, now you have different wing rules, you have different this and that. What are your thoughts on an overall governing body in sprint car racing in the United States?
Quick answer: we don't need it. I don't. That's just off the top of my head, and maybe someone could change my mind on that. I think we're heading the right way. I'm not. Anytime you add more levels of that's basically adding bureaucracy to the deal. I mean, we've got guys that run these organizations and know what the hell they're doing. We already have the smartest guys in the sport. That's my gut feeling. We don't need it.
Well, and that's actually true. I mean, I can't argue the bureaucracy part of it.
Right.
And who would do it?
I, we've
That's
got the best guys on the planet that are either in the high limits or worth the world of outlaws and
right.
smart guy. Yeah, I don't.
Where
Non-starter for me.
where do you come out in streaming?
It's great. It's been great for the sport.
I
It's
definitely
awesome.
think for the national level, yes.
Mhm.
I think it's fantastic.
It is.
You know,
Mhm.
the weekly show, do you worry weekly racing is going to continue to struggle because we do have a lot of big shows now. I mean, more than ever. I know in Central PA we have 39 shows that pay 10 grand or more.
Mhm.
And the West Coast, you guys, you have High Limit twice this year
Yeah.
coming out to the West Coast, and you have the Outlaws. And do you worry about the weekly show, and how do you preserve that, or do you need to preserve it, or can it go special events?
I think the very basic starting point of our sports are those weekly shows. We're going to have that good weekly shows, and I think you will keep that going strong if the national series are doing what they should be doing right. And that's so you're giving a place for a family to start racing and get growing, but it's just the affordability to keep them going. There might every year it just gets harder for that weekly guy that has a weekly track, and just that's tough sledding to make any money at it. So I don't have a perfect answer there, but I don't believe it's going to go away. I think there's a demand for it. People like their local drivers, love to go watch that. I mean, it's tradition. I don't think it's going away.
Well, your team started as more of a local team and has worked up the
For sure.
line, and that's, I mean, I think you're a poster board for what can happen for a local team turning into a national team.
Yeah, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes. We took two steps forward and four backwards sometime, but it can be done. It's tough sledding.
Expenses, boy, they escalated. I guess just from even when you first owned a car to now, are you surprised just what it costs now to field a competitive team, not only just at the national series level, but locally?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's completely different than when I started. And that's why I say I don't think we can sit here and try and drive costs down. I mean, it'd be good if we can find cost savings. I'm a big proponent of that. The quality of parts and the stuff that everybody can buy, and to be competitive, you got to buy good stuff. So it's the flip side of that is to try and get more money into the sport, pay better at the weekly programs, have the local points funds more money, get more money back to the local drivers. That's the best answer I have right now to battle the increase in costs.
I don't disagree. I don't think you want to go cheaper because then I think you get cheaper product.
Right.
I think that's standard in any business.
Yeah.
Got to pay to play. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
it's just you've been in this a long time. Do you ever think about a day when you don't do it?
No. Short answer. I hope I hope not. I mean, I hope that doesn't come.
Because how old are you now, if I may ask?
Oh man, I've been like 48 for a lot of years. I don't know. So I'm in
Well,
my I'm in my early 60s.
I turned 53 in like 5, 6 days, and I got to stop at 53. I got to take your approach to it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good place to stop. Yeah, don't go past that. It gets worse.
And I will take your advice on that. But um, is the key for you to just because look, if you if you stop getting involved in things as you get older, you stop moving around, you stop pushing forward, things start to hurt more. You age quicker, and it slows you down. Are you one of these guys? You want to keep going, you want to keep moving, because if you stop, man, stuff starts to hurt.
Yeah, and that's kind of how my mind is built. Is I just got a limited amount of time here, and I want to go right full throttle right to the end, and then we'll go from there. But I'd like to keep going. I love what I do on the real estate side. I super proud and happy with our sprint car team. I just want to, like I say, get up tomorrow morning and do it again.
Last thing, now I'll let you get out of here. How much do you get a chance to get out on the road, and do you still enjoy that travel to get out on the road with the team and just to get away from other stuff, even if it's just for 3-4 hours?
Yeah, it's my best. I love it. I love it. I mean, doing stuff with my family or going to races, two favorite things I have to do. I don't get to do it enough. I try every year. I say I'm going to do more, and I don't get enough. But maybe 15 times I'm with them in a year, and but it's awesome. It's one of those are some of my best days is when I'm at the races with the team.
Now, do you call them? Do they call you? Kind of just say, "Hey, you know."
We're on the phone quite often. Yes.
Oh, okay.
But they're self-contained. I'm not micromanaging them. And last week it was fun to call them, great job, great job, great job, Then if we're struggling, I'm calling them to say, keep your heads up. We're gonna figure this out, and we try and solve problems. But Tyler Tessemaker, I mean, he's one of those guys. I don't have any worries. He's running that team, and he makes good decisions. He's a sharp young man.
You're obviously a really good businessman. How important is it to maybe, like you said, you don't micromanage him, and he does, and Tyler Tessemaker does, runs the team. How important is it for you to be that guy in the background, kind of encouraging them, and not look, some owners browbeat their teams. I mean, how important is that philosophy of, hey, come on, guys, we'll get it, so on and so forth. And if there is a problem, hey, we'll just fix it and we'll move on to the next thing. That's kind of a slippery slope in juggling how you handle different personalities.
Yeah, correct. That's a personality issue. How guys, what motivates them. But for me, it's I try and stay positive with those guys. I mean, if I see something that I really disagree with, I'm not afraid to say it. But man, we have those guys out there, Brandon and Tyler and Aaron, it's just not their first rodeo. They've all been out there for a while. They know what they're doing better than I do. So I let them roll, and they make good decisions.
And I know I said it was the last thing. I guess I lied, but you're loyal. You're incredibly loyal. Like, I've heard stories that when you treat your guys really well, even guys where you part ways for whatever reason, you talk to them. They can call you if they need anything. Where did you this loyalty seems like it's been a part of your team since its inception. It seems like it's a really important thing to you.
That's just a business, how I run business, how I live my life. I mean, if people treat me well, I treat them well. I mean, man, I'm loyal to my contractors that help me on the real estate side. It goes both ways. I mean, it's just a simple rule. How I treat people, they treat me. It works for me.
I mean, Corey Eliason, he was the one that kind of got me clued into that. Like, he can call you today, and
absolutely. And likewise, if I need something or need to learn something, I can call Corey and learn from him, and he'll have answers for me. Yeah.
I mean, it's refreshing, because I hear some of the other stuff in racing, which I'm sure you do as well.
Yeah, I just don't choose. I mean, I'm a big hero of all those guys out on the road and all those guys racing and the sacrifices they make to put on that show for us. I mean, it's unless you are close to it, no one realizes that the time and effort that those guys on the road put in.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time and everything you do for racing, you know, the sponsorships, having a team on the national tour, the foundation, obviously doing good work. I'm glad I was able to catch up with you and have you on the deep dive. Much appreciated.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That's going to wrap up this edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com deep dive presented by Dottie's Family Market in Dover, PA. A big thank you to Kevin Rudeen for joining us on the show. Greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like the content on our YouTube channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You can also check out our daily exclusive content at www.sprintcarunlimited.com. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Deep Dive.